Welcome to INSITECT. Today we are talking about burglar alarm design for store and showroom security. Okay, so let's dig into this. We're really trying to break down the framework for protecting retail spaces. And this is not just, a bigger version of a home alarm system.
Not at all.
Commercial security, it faces totally different risks. You've got high-value inventory that's easy to grab, huge glass windows, complex staff movements. It's a different beast entirely.
Exactly. And if you're the one managing security for a store, your mission is, well, it's pretty complex. You need a practical framework for everything from risk assessment to the tech choices.
And that's the real deep dive for today.
It is. It's about finding that balance. How do you get robust, really sensitive detection without the system going off constantly from false alarms in a place that's just inherently chaotic?
That balancing act, that's the core challenge. So before we jump into the hardware, let's set the scene. What are the big architectural things that immediately separate retail security from, say, a normal house installation?
I'd say the main difference is control and integrity. Commercial systems need granular control. You can't just arm the whole building.
Right.
You need to be able to partially arm zones like a stock room while the main floor is still open for cleaners. And then the standards are just much tighter. We have to talk about supervised circuits, which check the wiring constantly, and mandatory tamper detection.
So the system is always checking itself, basically.
Always. System integrity has to be absolute. It's, frankly, overkill for most homes.
Okay, let's unpack that need for a thorough risk assessment. It's the foundation of everything.
It is.
It's not enough to just stick sensors up where it feels right. You have to think like an intruder, mapping out every possible entry point, every high-value zone, and, crucially, looking at the local crime history.
And when you look at how they operate in commercial buildings, they're always looking for minimal visibility. They're not usually coming through the front door.
No.
They're targeting rear delivery doors, side windows nobody sees, or even rooftop hatches, especially if there's a parking garage or another building right next door that gives them cover.
And the threat profile, it's really two-layered, which makes the design tricky. On one hand, you've got the external threat, the fast-moving stuff.
The smash and grabs.
Exactly. Targeting the front window, grabbing what's on display, and they're gone in under a minute.
But then you have the internal risk. And that's often slower, more sophisticated, and honestly, way more damaging. We're talking about former employees, maybe accomplices, who know the system's weaknesses.
They know the codes, the blind spots.
That requires a completely different strategy to detect.
What's fascinating to me is how the store's day-to-day operations become a critical security input. You mentioned that to really assess risk, you have to document staff flow, delivery times. Why is that specific detail so vital for the alarm designer?
Because without it, you can't make smart zoning decisions. If the cleaning crew comes in at 11 p.m. and only needs access to the main floor, your system has to accommodate that.
It's legitimate activity.
It's legitimate. If you ignore it, you're just guaranteeing false alarms. And a flood of false alarms leads to security fatigue, where everyone's staff, the monitoring center, just stops taking alerts seriously.
That ties right into the high-value zones. Jewelry cases, electronics, the cash office, the stock room, with all the inventory.
These areas need the tightest coverage, often with overlapping sensor technologies.
So this brings up maybe the biggest question in all of retail security design. If we're connecting all this tech to the operational side, isn't the reliance on staff procedures the ultimate weakest link?
Oh, absolutely.
Things like managing user codes, making sure the last person out actually arms the system correctly, especially with high turnover and seasonal staff?
It's the human factor. That can undermine the most technically perfect alarm design in a second. We assume the tech will save us, but if someone shares a master code or just fails to set the alarm,
The whole system is basically worthless.
which is why the design has to assume human error is going to happen. You need layers that protect against that too.
Assuming that human fallibility, that takes us right to the architectural blueprint, and it all starts with zoning.
It does. It's essential for flexibility in retail.
We're dividing the space into logical areas that can be armed independently. Security in one part, operations in another.
Right. Think functionally. The main sales floor might be one huge zone, fully armed after hours. But stockrooms, where the really valuable stuff is, that needs to be a separate zone.
Armed even when the store is open sometimes.
Often, yes. And back offices with cash and records, they need independent control. A manager might need to get in late, long after the closing staff has left.
The core design principle here is what we call layered coverage.
That's the one.
Perimeter detection is your first layer. Magnetic contacts on doors, windows. That detects the entry attempt itself. Then, interior motion detectors are the second layer.
So if they bypass the perimeter, say, cut through a wall, you still catch them once they're inside the space.
And that kind of layered approach, it demands a powerful control panel.
A powerful and flexible one. Commercial panels can go from 8 zones up to, 128 in a big retail setting. We always recommend modular systems that you can expand.
Because a big renovation shouldn't mean you have to replace the entire security backbone.
Exactly. And beyond the panel, monitoring reliability is non-negotiable. A local siren is a good deterrent, sure.
But the real safeguard is central station monitoring. Professional response coordination. Insurers often demand it anyway.
And for that to work, the communication has to be rock solid. This is why redundant communication paths are a mandate, not a nice to have.
So not just an internet connection.
Never. Relying only on an IP connection is a huge liability. One fiber cut, and your system is silent. You have to have a cellular or GSM pathway as a backup. If one pass fails, the system just switches to the other.
We also can't forget physical resilience. The panel needs its own dedicated power circuit.
You don't want a freezer blowing a fuse and taking your alarm system down with it.
And the battery backup has to be meticulously calculated. You're looking at the total current draw of maybe 100 sensors and a legally required standby time.
Which, for a premium commercial job, can be many, many hours.
Okay, let's talk brass tacks. Sensor selection. Retail environments are tough high ceilings, air currents from automatic doors, huge walls of glass.
Starting with the perimeter, a standard magnetic contact isn't going to cut it. They have to include tamper switches.
What does that do?
It's a small micro switch. If someone tries to physically remove the sensor casing from the door frame, it triggers an alarm. And again, this all runs on supervised circuits, so the panel knows instantly if a wire is cut, not just when the system is armed.
And for inside, passive infrared or PIR sensors are the standard, but placement is everything.
It's an art. You want them high in the corners for maximum aisle coverage. But here's the critical tip. Never ever aim them at an HVAC vent. The thermal currents are a nightmare for false motion triggers.
So this is where the smarter tech comes in.
This is where we recommend dual technology models. They combine the infrared, which sees heat, with microwave sensing, which detects physical movement.
And both have to agree.
Both have to detect something at the same time to confirm it's a real intrusion. It's called cross-verification, and it dramatically cuts down false positives.
Okay, that handles the interior. But what about those huge glass facades on showrooms? A smash and grab needs to be detected instantly.
2 primary defenses for glass. First, you have acoustic detectors. They literally listen for the specific frequency signature of shattering glass.
And the second?
Shock sensors. You mount them right on the frame, and they detect the vibrations of a forced entry attempt before the glass even breaks. That gives you precious seconds.
You mentioned object immune settings earlier. What if I've got, say, giant holiday displays or balloons that move around overnight?
That's where the tech gets really sophisticated. The signal processing is designed to discriminate. It can ignore something like a big decoration or a drifting balloon. It works with the more common pet immune settings, which use height and mass to ignore small objects, but still pick up a human intruder.
And finally, staff safety during business hours. We need silent measures.
Absolutely. Panic buttons and hold-up alarms under the counters, they're critical. They bypass all the normal delays and generate an immediate priority dispatch notification to the police.
The future of this is all about integration, isn't it? A single, unified platform.
It completely is. Integration improves verification accuracy, reduces friction, and just streamlines the entire response.
The most obvious one is CCTV integration. It shouldn't just be recording passively.
No. When a zone triggers, let's say the rear stockroom door, the linked camera should automatically record and pop up a live feed for the central station operator, video verification.
And you need pre-alarm recording, too.
Crucial. Capturing the 10 or 15 seconds before the trigger is often what shows you how they got in.
That verification step is huge, and the synergy with access control is just as important.
It is. The access system can lock doors when the alarm is set. But the real intelligence comes from cross-referencing logs. You're looking for pattern anomalies.
Give me a practical example of an anomaly.
Sure. Let's say the manager's badge was used to get into the back office 5 minutes after the entire building was armed for the night. That's a huge red flag. The monitoring center gets an alert immediately.
And this is where we really connect security to the bottom line. Point of sale integration. Why link the alarm to the cash register?
Because the POS knows when the business is actually operating. If the system knows the store closes at 10, and the last transaction was at 9.58, it can apply business logic.
It expects the alarm to be set within a certain window.
Exactly, a 15-minute window.
Mhm.
If the closing staff forgets to arm it or arms it wrong, the system flags that deviation and triggers a callback. It basically turns the alarm into an operational audit tool.
We also need to get granular with staff controls, defining user roles.
Vital. Managers get full control, but opening and closing staff should have time-restricted codes that only work during their shifts.
And what about specialized codes?
We have to emphasize those. Duress codes are crucial. A staff member can enter under pressure, it looks normal, but it silently alerts the police. You also have escort codes for maintenance, which might require two people to enter codes at once.
And then there's partial arming or stay mode.
Right, for overnight cleaners or inventory teams.
Yeah.
It arms the perimeter, but disables the interior motion, so they can work safely inside without setting anything off.
Let's shift to long-term reliability. A perfect design doesn't mean much if the system degrades.
It means nothing. The commissioning phase is vital. It requires a strict site acceptance testing checklist. You walk test every single sensor, you verify both communication paths, you document the battery voltage.
And what are the common pitfalls you see? The design flaws that creep in later.
The biggest one is overlooking blind spots created by new merchandise displays or even just holiday decorations. You have to test the system in its most cluttered state.
I can imagine another one is just bad labeling.
Oh, it's maddening. Poor zoning documentation. Getting an alert for Zone 3 is useless. It needs to say, rear loading door, northwest corner. Vague labels delay police dispatch.
And the last one is probably failing to plan for the future.
A massive, costly mistake. Retail spaces change. You have to choose panels with expansion capacity and use structured wiring. It's always cheaper than ripping out a whole system 5 years down the road.
So if we pull all of this together, what's the single most important lesson from this deep dive?
Successful retail security is not a product you install. It's a process that you continuously verify. It's built on layered coverage, redundant communication, and a comprehensive design and documentation checklist, with as-built drawings and a clear operations manual for staff.
So that continuous verification, it pushes the alarm system beyond just being a burglar alarm.
Precisely. The integration with business logistics, POS, staff schedules, access logs, it transforms the alarm system into a real-time operational audit tool.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to consider.
If security data is so good at auditing closing procedures and inventory, what other business systems, maybe supply chain logistics or even HR efficiency metrics, could benefit from that same real-time intelligence?
Thanks for listening. We will continue to talk about security and technology. See you in the next episode.